Welcome to the Sales Mastery Summit. I'm Mary Pohl, your host, and with us today is persuasion and influence expert Mark Bowden, who recently authored Tame Your Primitive Brain. Welcome, Mark.
Hi there. Great to see you again, Mary.
Well, I am looking forward to our interview today about the new work that you've been doing. Of course, you're a longtime body language expert, and you really help us make the most of our communication skills by really firing in all cylinders. And the one thing that can get in the brain, in the way of how we communicate oftentimes, is that old reptilian brain. So thanks for helping us whip that into shape today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. You know, as you'll probably find out, I really love talking about this area, and I really love helping people with this, especially people in sales, because it's a tough world out there in sales. So any help that I can give today, I'm happy to give.
Well, and if you think there is one area that being a hothead is going to get you, it's in the sales arena. So it's great that we'll be able to really learn to control ourselves better so we can influence better.
Sure.
So one of the things that I like about your most recent work is that you really distinguish between our reflexes and our instincts, because this is an area that's actually confused me a bit as neuroscience has been talking more about the legacy that we've developed over millions of years with our brain, and the fact that the reptilian brain is really the entry control point for everything going into our brain. Just in reality, how controllable is that?
It's fairly uncontrollable is the reality. If we just take something which is a reflex, for example, which is if you walk into a cold shower, for example, you'll have a reflex which will cause you to gasp, take a sharp intake of breath, that your capillaries will move further away from your skin to conserve that heat, and your chances of stopping that are pretty slim. Now, I did once meet some Japanese monks who've they've been meditating for years and years and years to be able to walk underneath a very cold waterfall, ice cold, and it have not any effect on them. And they got pretty good at that, okay? They could
a very practical skill.
Very practical skill. And the reality was you couldn't surprise them with an ice bucket of water, okay? You can't they've got to be ready for it.
No Gatorade splash for them.
Oh, exactly. So the reality is we can kind of prepare for some of those instinctual, reflexive moments, but they catch us by surprise. Life takes us by surprise. So we need to be ready with something else. And I say that you can countermeasure your primitive instincts, but you're not going to stop them. Look, there is some stuff I could give you that would stop your primitive brain completely, but you'd die in the process. So I'm not going to give you those drugs. I don't have a license to give you those drugs. So,
nor do you want to spend your life in prison. But
exactly, we can't stop it, but we can countermeasure it and prepare for it. I would say.
Okay. So I liken this to having one of those days where I think, oh, what a jerk. And then the next encounter I have during the day is another jerk. And then I finally have to check in with myself and say, you know, the universe didn't just send me every jerk today to make my life more complex and chaotic. So maybe I need to check inside and see what's going on.
Right. So what that tells me, Mary, is sometimes you get into a mood. Sometimes somebody sets you off, and then you're now in a bit, and they give you an emotion, essentially. They give you a feeling, or you have a feeling around them, a negative feeling, let's say. And that negative feeling, we would say, will probably last maximum of about 10 minutes. So actually, it's pretty short, okay? So if you're in a negative mood because somebody set you off, I could potentially come back in 10 minutes and that emotion will be over. However, the mood could last a lot longer. If your emotion kicks off a mood, that could be all day with you. Could be 2 days, potentially. But if it goes like 3, 4, 5, 6, couple of weeks, you've got an affective disorder of some sort.
Okay.
And maybe you need some more help.
Yeah.
But here's what we need to know in the world of sales, okay? If I've come to you and you're a potential buyer for me and you seem to be having a negative emotion around me, my product, my service, I could come back in as little as 10 minutes and you may feel differently about it. But if it set you into a bit of a mood, I maybe need to come back tomorrow or the day after or the day after that.
Okay.
But here's the thing I need to recognize is, just because you have an emotion about my product or service or me right now doesn't mean you'll always have it.
Okay.
Just because you're in a mood right now doesn't mean you'll always be in that mood. And what's tended to happen, and I'm trying to work against here, is there's lots of data for people around sales about personality types. Mm-hmm. You know, there's this kind of personality and that kind of personality and this kind of personality, and they're one of those and they're one of those, and you've got all these different types. And if I come to you on a day and you're not into my product or service, I might go, well, you're a type whatever.
Yeah.
So I think I can just leave you alone and never come back again. But if I suddenly start to think, well, maybe you're having an emotion about it or you're in a mood about it, then it stands me a chance of going, I could come back later and give it another go. And I think that's important for anybody in sales.
So is the 10-minute rule hard and fast, or is there anything that we can do to influence that recovery quicker?
No, I would go with a hard and fast 10-minute rule. You can be pretty safe with a hard and fast 10-minute rule. I've got my, this is my home office. So I've got my kids upstairs at the moment. And if Lex or Stella, my son or daughter, if they have an emotion, okay, something sets them off, I know I can pretty much come back in 10 minutes' time and it's over with them. But it may have put them in a bad mood or a good mood or an inquisitive mood or a testy mood. Yeah. So it's the same with them as it is with you. We have this kind of 10-minute cycle with emotions. Yeah.
And we need to recognize that in ourselves as well then.
Absolutely.
Give ourselves a time out.
Yeah, so if I just came off a call, a sales call, and that person has triggered me in some way to feel, you know, not on top of it at the moment, go and have a 10-minute break. I should have a 10-minute break around. Go and do something else, some other piece of work that maybe doesn't matter so much for 10 minutes, then get back to my calls in 10 minutes' time.
Okay. So it sounds like you can build our resilience toward this and really give us some skills so that we can overcome it, maybe even offset having to deal with the 10-minute rule quite so often. And I understand that you can even help people over the course of 28 days or a month really build up their resilience and their persuasive skills. Is that fair?
Right, absolutely. If the 10-minute rule is something that you maybe won't have to use because you've got a whole bunch of other tools and techniques that are going to help you not trigger other people's emotions or trigger or negatively or trigger their moods negatively and not trigger your own moods or be triggered in a negative way. So basically to be able to walk around whatever world you walk around with, in this case, the world of sales, and it be more positive for you and others to be more positive to you. Okay.
So can you give us some suggestions on how we go about doing that?
Sure. So let me give you this one. You'll have noticed that people trigger you and put you into a bad feeling or a bad mood. Usually because your brain has insufficient data as to what they mean or what they're doing. So it defaults to a negative. Okay. So the primitive brain, when insufficient data, defaults to negative.
The worst.
Yeah, to the worst. Yeah. So if I don't get a call back from the potential client, or the potential buyer, do I think, oh well, you know, it's probably a good thing.
They're on vacation.
They're on vacation. They're having a great time. Good for them. Or they're having some meetings. They're bringing more people into the deal. So actually, maybe I could sell even more. Maybe they're scoping it out for something bigger. I go, oh no, they hated me. It's dead in the water. Yeah. Okay. and I've got these horrific, sales funnel that I need to fill and some quotas I need to do, and now I'm under pressure around that. Why? Because my VP sales hates me as well and thinks I'm doing bad work. So I catastrophize, essentially. But I've got to know that I do that around insufficient data. So one of the things I can do is always ask for more data about why people are doing what they're doing. And if I can't get any more data, try and assume positive intent all the time. Yeah, try and what I would call suspend my judgment. Yeah, because my judgment will always default to negative. Does that make sense, Mary?
Yep. Well, and it makes sense that we're just instinctually programmed for that as a survival technique, because in days gone past, what we didn't understand could kill us, but we don't live in that day anymore.
Right. So we're not in the days of, if you go behind the rock without knowing if there's a predator behind the rock, you're probably going to get eaten. That isn't the day-to-day life of us in commercial business today, necessarily. However, our primitive brain, our brainstem, which is 500 million years old, if we take evolution as a given, it's thinking in that same way. Yeah? So if I don't get any data about something, it goes, well, you're going to get eaten. This is a bad thing. This is an awful thing. So I've just got to know that's the way my brain works. I've got to know that's the way your brain works. So why did you get upset with me when I came to present to you? Or why did you seem aggressive with my product or service? Maybe it's because I was giving you insufficient data about my intention towards you, about my feeling towards you. And you felt bad about me. And you project that then on my product or my service. Because Mark feels bad to you, product and service feels bad. Then you start attacking the product and service, and I think you're attacking me. Well, to an extent you are, because I was the thing that triggered the bad feeling, because I didn't give you enough of the data that you want. So one of the things you can do around that is keep checking in. Is there anything else I need to tell you? How comfortable do you feel about this? Is this feeling good to you? So I check in on feelings rather than, do you have enough data? Can I tell you anything else? Yeah? Instead, I go, how do you feel about that? Yeah, and that should elicit a sense of how your primitive brain is emoting around the sales pitch.
And Mark, just to pull in some of your previous work, there's body language techniques we can use to provide data that can help the cause as well. Can you give us some tips on that?
So I'm trying to give you some now, which is you can see quite a lot of me in the frame. Usually what happens on this kind of call is people tend to be kind of like this.
Looking up the nose.
Looking up the nose there, look at my nose, all of that kind of stuff, And I'm not saying that's, sometimes that's the only thing you can do, but I'm trying to give you a lot more data now for you to see a lot more of my body. So I can show you a lot of things like open palms, no tools, no weapons. I've got nothing to harm you. If I step back a bit even more, you can see right at this belly area here, what I call the truth plane. So my book's Winning Body Language and Winning Body Language for Sales Professionals is full of this stuff around gestures like this, open-handed, that display this stomach area, is a universal signal across the planet for I'm your friend. I'm not a predator. I'm here to give you resource, not take resource away from you. And once you've made those kind of gestures, then you can move forward into people's space a little bit more, and they'll feel more comfortable.
And they know you're safe. And again, that is our reptilian brain reacting to potential danger. So you're giving data via your physicality as well as checking in on their feelings.
Right. I mean, how do you feel about me if I stop showing you my hands? You can see that they're behind my back. Back now, when my hands go behind my back, you'll hear my tone of voice change. This naturally happens with everybody when they put their hands behind their back. So, some people suggest, and you'll read some body language books that suggest this shows interest. But I bet you don't think that I'm that interested in you and this interview now. I think I've probably changed in your perception. And now all I'm going to do is bring my hands back here. I'm the same guy, All I'm doing is just showing you these gestures here, and I bet you feel better about me.
Yeah.
Now, so again, it's more sufficient data for you to make a positive judgment. This is now insufficient data for you to make a positive judgment, so you default to more negatives.
So it seems in a one-on-one exchange that we're going to assume that someone else is reacting instinctually and may not have the skills to control that, but we're going to be the one in the party that actually has the skills to control our instincts so that we can create the outcome that we're after. Is that fair?
Right, absolutely. We can't depend on other people to be as knowledgeable on us as us around human behavior.
Okay.
And most of the time we're just sailing through our lives quite well, doing a fine job of just reacting to what's happening based on a set of programmed patterns in us. But as sales professionals, what we're trying to think, and sales professionals who are trying to get really good at this as well, economical around this, we're trying to think, how do I lead the sale by leading with my behavior, by using positive behavior all the time to lead other people in a positive way.
Yeah.
So for sure, this isn't about being able to so much change other people's behavior, but change ours, first of all, so that they react to us. Yeah.
Perfect. So we're going to hit conflict, which in any relationship that hits any depth, conflict is going to come up, and it's really how we handle it that gives us the outcome that we're after. So besides the providing sufficient data, what else can we do in that situation of conflict that leads us not to try to win the battle, but win the war, so to speak, and get to the outcome that we're after?
Sure. So our primitive brains really like people who agree with us.
Yeah.
They like people who are in
They're
agreement.
Smart.
Yeah. They're smart. Yeah. Anybody who thinks how I think, who agrees with me, who says, yeah, Mark, that's great. They're suddenly a really smart person. Mm-hmm. Okay. But what tends to happen in conflict is we have disagreement and we have argument. And we're well trained in argument. Probably our schools taught us to argue, our parents taught us to argue, our partners have helped us to argue. And we now need to influence and persuade, which means we need to join the other person's side. Uh-huh. We need to get with their tribe, as I would call it, their group, their mindset, and start following and agreeing with where they are, or certainly accepting where they are. Our brain is designed to look for who is accepting us, and therefore who is part of our tribe, our group, our gang, our company. Yeah, and they're good. They're providers. So how can you, instead of falling into conflict, decide to create a sense of acceptance and agreement? Well, of course, there's body language. This open body language is way more agreeable. There's also just having that attitude of saying yes more to what others are saying, even if they're attacking your product and service, to be able to go, okay, I get where you're coming from. I've heard that from other people. So make them part of a bigger group.
Okay.
Yeah? So have that accepting body language around the disagreement, accept and agree with their disagreement, and then potentially say whatever you like, because they will be in a mindset of agreement with you now. Yeah. So then we would say you copy, you paste their disagreement with you, you join in with that, and then you start to lead by giving alternate points of view, rather than going, no, you're completely wrong. My product, my service isn't that. Let me tell you what it is. Because at that point, you switch off. I mean, notice what happens the moment I do that in front of your face.
Yeah, right in my face.
Yeah, right in your face.
I think what you're saying is somewhat counterintuitive, because when I reflect on customer service experiences, even when someone, a customer service rep, says to me, really, you're having this problem? That I've never heard that before. It kind of ticks me off.
Yeah.
And you'd think that, hearing that all kinds of people have had the same problem as me would tick me off. But no, it makes me feel like, okay, they get it, they understand, and now they're going to help me. Versus I'm the only one that has ever had a problem.
Right, exactly. Nobody wants to know that they're the only one who's had this problem,
Right.
because that suggests, again, we default to the negative.
Yeah.
That suggests I don't know how to operate the product or service correctly.
Yeah, it's all
It
my
suggests
fault.
I'm some loner who doesn't know how to handle this stuff. Oh, we've had nobody else who can't operate this video recorder.
Right.
You're the only one.
So whereas they might not want to admit that there are common issues with their product, it's actually a better thing to do because it makes people feel like they're part of a tribe.
Right, or even going, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Yeah, this is one we've not heard before, okay? And I'm really happy you've managed to bring this to me. So now I've made you special. Now I've raised your status. Yeah. And now I've raised your status, your brain is producing dopamine. And because your brain's now producing dopamine, you feel good. In fact, what your brain is now saying is, hey, hang out here. This is going to get good. I get my status raised around here. Yeah. Engage more. So I'm now engaging you with a sale. You know, I can shift you from complaint to sale. Whereas before, all I was going to do was get in a battle with you around complaint. Now, understand this. My primitive brain would love to get in a battle with you around complaint because it's always right and you were attacking me.
Yeah.
It thinks. But I've got to suspend my judgment about that. I've got to assume positive intent. I've got to tame that primitive brain around.
So do you have tips to flip that switch when I want to go into argument? Instead, I control myself and then get in the mindset that I need to really get to that outcome that I'm after.
Perfect. Yeah. When I feel the attack coming, I nod my head.
Okay.
And I smile and I do open body language.
Which changes your chemistry.
Which changes my whole chemistry. My primitive brain is wanting to make me do this.
Yeah.
And back away, or do this and get aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I do is I go, okay, I'm feeling like this is an attack.
Okay.
I'm going to do the behavior of somebody who isn't being attacked, of somebody who's here to give stuff to you. So I start to purposely do the behavior of somebody who's here to provide rather than somebody who's here to take away or attack.
Okay.
So you've got to get to know some of your own behaviors around when you're a provider rather than somebody who's taking something away or attacking. And you've got to know what the feeling's like. Know some of your behaviors that you do when you're getting attacked.
Yeah.
So I
love the synergy with your body language work and your brain science work, because really by changing your body language, you're changing your own chemistry to get to the person that you wished you were. And you're also changing how you're perceived by the other person looking at you, because you're doing body language that's, connotative of a different experience. So it's working on both realms.
This is a really cutting edge new area of psychology called embodied cognition, or behavioral psychology called embodied cognition. If you want to hear some more about it, there's not only videos of me talking about it on my website, which is truthplane.com, but go to TED and you'll hear somebody called Amy Cuddy talking about embodied cognition and how the structures you make with your body literally change your brain chemistry and the chemistry of your whole body.
Okay.
And it's rather along these lines of fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
And I know there's a whole bunch of people out there who quite rightly will be saying, so where's all the authenticity in this? Now, here's my angle on it. It's my authenticity that tends to get me into the most trouble. It's my authenticity that on the day that I need to pick up the phone and call and call and call and call, it's my authenticity that says, don't do that. You'll get rejected.
Okay.
Come on. They don't want this. Yeah. That's me, my authentic self. And I think for many out there in sales, they understand that as an authentic feeling and mood about themselves, quite often, more often than they'd ever like.
And I think it's fair to say that your authentic self could be your reactive self. And it's also authentic to recognize your reactive self and control it and respond proactively. And you can still be authentic that way.
when I'm selling, I have an authentic goal. My goal is I want to sell this stuff. I really want to sell it. Why? Because I believe it's brilliant. I believe it's good. I've seen it. You know, I've seen the work that I do change people's lives. So I want to sell it. Now, there's another authentic part of me that often just doesn't want to get up in the morning and do that work. It's going, no, be lazy. Come on, you don't need to do that.
Play games with the kids, yeah.
Yeah, either they want it or they don't want it. If they want it, they should come to you. And if they haven't heard about it, that's their bad luck.
Yeah.
And so there's the authentic part of me that wants everybody to have it, says, okay, we are going to fake this idea that you want to get up this morning. We're going to fake this idea that you're happy to hear their rejection, to accept their rejection.
Bring it on, yeah.
So, you know, the moment I've got somebody on the phone and they go, oh, no, we don't need any of that. And they're going, yeah, I know. That's why I'm calling you.
Yeah.
And they're going, yeah, of course you don't need any of this. Of course you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah? Instead of going, oh, right, yeah, okay, so sorry for calling, bye. Which is what my authentic self wants to do around that. So, you know, I'm with you in that always in the world of professional sales, we're having to manage our instincts not to go out there and sell. And play that against the days when we do have that real drive and that real instinct to go out and sell. You know, it's how we manage the more negative days, if that makes sense to you.
So, Mark, you mentioned earlier that we can actually influence and join somebody else's tribe or group. And I see this as a really important area that's not talked about very much, especially in light of the fact that what goes wrong most often with acquisitions is that two separate company cultures never get along well, and no one's teaching them how to get along well and join into a common tribe. So it sounds like a really great area to get your advice on.
Yeah, so let me give you my model of what tribes are made up of. A tribe is any group, so anything more than one, you know, person together that hold the same values, beliefs, rituals, customs, goals, concerns, and signals. So it's a bit of a long list. I'm just going to say it again so anybody who's writing this down can get it again. Values, beliefs, rituals, customs, goals, concerns, and signals.
Okay.
So let me just take. You can read more about this in Tame the Primitive Brain, but let me just take one of them. I'm wearing a signal now. This shirt is a signal. I'll bring it closer up.
Okay.
So you can see the signal. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what do you think this, in your mind, what does this shirt signal to you? What does it say to you?
Relaxed, easygoing.
Yeah, lovely. So when I'm going in to sell to the bank, do I wear this shirt?
They wouldn't be wearing that shirt.
No, exactly. They don't give off this signal.
No.
Yeah. And in fact, I will get some strange looks walking around the bank, you know, the head office of a big global bank with this kind of shirt on. They'll go, who's that guy? That guy's in the wrong place. They essentially will be put off by it. They'll do what we call the retreat response.
Okay.
So I've got a kind of, I don't know whether you can see that, but yeah, that's slightly kind of checked shirt here, and then in the lining here,
you get the funky.
Yeah, I got an Italian shirt. It's an Italian suit. It's a little more flamboyant, okay. But I have a pinstripe suit. I have a plain shirt, and I have a more conservative tie, and I can walk into a bank and give them the signals that I understand their tribe.
Okay.
Wear something of the uniform that gets me in the gate, because I know they value some things that somebody wearing this shirt is maybe suggesting they don't value. Okay? This maybe says I'm not really concerned with the numbers. I'm just concerned with the patterns. Yeah. I'm maybe going to have some quite inventive thinking, whereas, you know, they're valuing some more, precise thinking. Whether that's what they do or not, that's what they value.
Okay.
So I need to make sure I walk into a sale understanding that tribe's values, what they think is most important, what they believe. So that's stuff that they think is true and they don't need any further data on it. So if they believe they don't need my product or service, I can't change that belief. They don't need any more data. Yeah?
Okay.
It's a mistake that I'm there in the first place. If they say, we don't believe in body language, Mark, I may as well go, absolutely, thank you very much, see you. Mm-hmm. Because my chances of changing their belief are really, really low. However, I could accept their belief. I could go, well, of course, I totally accept that for you in the world of banking, body language, it's really not an important thing, is it? Yeah. And now I'm starting to join their tribe by accepting them.
Okay.
Yeah. Then I might start to talk about high-ranking members of their tribe who, strangely enough, have accepted body language as an important thing within banking. Mm. Yeah. Because I know that their primitive brain, their limbic brain, which is about 2.5 million years old in terms of us upright hominids, yeah, it pays great attention to what the high-ranking members of the tribe think and feel.
Okay.
And do. So if I could lay down something of what a high-ranking tribal member has thought about my product or service, I could change their mind.
Okay.
But I can't argue with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you make them right and you change their mind at the same time. So
Absolutely.
They don't have to admit that they were wrong.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you need to do is really study the tribe that you're trying to sell into.
Okay.
Yeah?
So this sounds like an effective way to manage your first impression?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. And in fact, your impression across the whole time that you're with that tribe. Okay. Knowing that for some of our watchers out there, they're it might be 6 months, 8 months. It could be, a year and a half between when they first get contact with the potential client and when they get the sale. Some people are on a long, long sales cycle and they're having to integrate and meet with that tribe and meet various elements of it. Sometimes they're having to get meetings where they bring two tribes together within the same company. Mm-hmm. Yeah. For example, anybody who's out there selling technology, for example, yeah, they've got to get the CIO at the table along with the CFO. Mm-hmm. Now, the CIO and the CFO sometimes don't meet eye to eye because the CIO keeps spending money. It doesn't make them any money.
Invest money. Yeah.
Invest. Yeah. Hopefully the CIO going, it's an investment.
Yeah.
But often the CFO has seen that by the time the software or the hardware has been integrated, the CIO is then going, it's 5 years on, we need some more. We need something new. The landscape has changed. So often the job of the sales professional is to bring the tribes together and get a really good tribal meeting going.
So how do you pull that off?
Well, again, you've got to know the two tribes or 3 or 4 that are coming together, and you've got to be the person who's able to see everybody's side and accept everybody's side and find alignment on some values. Okay. If they're always misaligned on their values, or their goals. Okay. Yeah, so, for example, CFO, what's the goal of the CFO? What's the goal of the CIO? Yeah. Are any of those goals the same? Can you align your product or service to that goal that's the same? Okay. Yeah. Or that belief that's the same, or that, or that signal that's the same. The signal that this is going to make us money, or the value that's the same. Okay. You want to be seen as the peacemaker between these tribes rather than sitting to one side, being with one gang.
Yeah. Us versus them.
Us versus them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So just like you did in a one-on-one situation where you're agreeable and you're finding the common ground so that you're working together toward the same goal, you're really the bridge builder between groups, maybe within the same company, accomplishing the same thing.
Right, exactly. And what you can do with each tribe is do something that we call perceptual positioning. Okay. Yeah. So again, this is in Tame the Primitive Brain. There's your viewpoint, yeah. There's their viewpoint, and then the fly on the wall. That view. So you can, if there's tribal conflict, you can take one tribe to one side and go, so let's talk about your viewpoint. Now, what do you think they're thinking and feeling at the moment? And what do you think an outside viewer, would see in all of this? Now, what this does, this perceptual positioning does, is engage a part of their brain called the neocortex, which is only 200,000 years old, but it's very, very big.
Yeah.
Only 200,000. Very, very big and very, very smart, really smart. And it can countermeasure the primitive brain, which is saying, there's only my point of view is right, and those other people out there, they're either mad or bad.
Okay.
They either just don't get it because they're stupid, or they're purposely not getting it because they want to affect me negatively.
Right.
Yeah? So perceptual positioning can counteract the mad or bad. And I'm sure, everybody listening out there has experienced that with a potential client or customer where they're making somebody else an enemy, and it's stopping the sale.
Yeah.
Making them the enemy. Well, they're having an emotion at the moment, a negative emotion around that other entity. Yeah. And if you could try some perceptual positioning with them to go, okay, we see your point of view. Explain that more to me. Let's look at the point of view of this thing that you don't like over here. And what would be the point of view if we just stepped back and looked at that? You'll find that you pull them out of that primitive brain thinking, out of that emotion, and you get them thinking smart.
Okay. I like it. And I can imagine your kids are guinea pigs for all of this, as I have two kids about your kid's age, and Mom, she's being so mean is common.
Yeah, so Mom, she's being so mean, and I might go, okay, I understand that it feels mean to you. Yeah? Tell me about that. Describe to me. Tell me about what's happening that feels mean. Yeah. And so my son or daughter would describe their feelings. They did this. They did that. It did this to me. And then you go, okay. So I wonder what if we were in their shoes, what they were trying to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they can elicit some data around the other person's point of view, or we could just go and ask them. Yeah. I could go, hey, Lex is upset right now. Can you just describe to him what you were trying to do there? And sometimes Stella can't describe it at all, but sometimes she's actually really good at it, saying, here's what I was trying to get. Mm-hmm. And then I could be the outsider and go, so here's what I see from the outside of this. Or I could say, look, both of you, what do you think it looks like from an outsider's point of view, from the outside? Yeah. Now, even just doing that perceptual switching just calms them down for a start.
Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes they've just forgotten what the argument was about.
Or they reacted with their primitive brain and got stuck there, which we do a lot as adults too.
Right, absolutely. They've got stuck there. So at least I've managed to unstick them from the emotion by triggering some different thought patterns, essentially as I would call it, using a different part of the brain, that higher neocortex part of the brain. And this is stuff you can do with clients all the time.
Well, and it's amazing that it isn't that hard to do once you have the skill and the recognition of what's going on.
Right. Once you have the skill, and it's simple tools. As I say, in my book, it's 28 ways in 28 days to manage the most impulsive behavior at work. So it's just 28 simple things. Mm-hmm. And you need 3 of them to get really good at this. The real key is understanding that those other people's emotions will trigger you. Yep. Yeah. You need always, if my son and daughter are having some argument with each other, I've got to know that their argument will trigger me into argument, and I've got to suspend my judgment around getting triggered into that. Mm-hmm. Same as an upset client or colleague or potential customer or potential customer in a mood that I can't get through to, will trigger me into that mood as well.
Yeah.
So I've got cognizant of that, knowing that that is a trigger for me and what I can do around those triggers.
Makes sense. Well, these are important skills for all of life. And when we look at the role of sales or the job of sales, that is just a focal point of the emotional response contention, because we're dealing with rejection and emotions and all of that good stuff every day. So mastering this for our profession also helps the rest of our life as well.
For sure. Look, I really believe with sales, the point of sales is to persuade and influence people and change people's lives. Because if you don't persuade and influence me, if you're trying to sell to me, I'll keep on doing the same thing. I guarantee you. I'm a creature of habit, just like every other human being out there. I will stay in the same pain day after day after day after day, okay, unless you can persuade and influence me. And even if I move from pain into a high level of pain because there's been a trigger, I still need persuading and influencing to get the right product and service. So, anybody great at sales really needs to know that they are doing a service when they persuade and influence people. Without that, we are not buying what you've got without persuasion and influence, for sure.
Yeah, that is definitely not dead. It's a lifelong skill.
Yeah, for sure.
Super. Well, I highly encourage our viewers to get Tame the Primitive Brain so they can pick up your tips and actually go to work and build the skills in a month. Is there anywhere else, Mark, that they can go if they want to dive deeper on this, really master it?
Yeah, sure. Go to my website, www.truthplane.com, and you can pick up, there's lots of videos there and some content there. Just research there. Tame the Primitive Brain, as we've talked about. And also, don't forget Winning Body Language for Sales Professionals. It's got a lot of this stuff in as well. Okay,
excellent. So this is, like we said, it's simple things to do, but simple is not always easy. You can still get frustrated and stuck. What do you see people encounter as they try to really manage their instincts better?
Yeah, so what you see, where I think you see people get most stuck is thinking that they would get really, really good at this, okay? Thinking that they'll be able to crack it, thinking that they'll be able to be some kind of machine that doesn't get emotionally involved and can kind of ride above that. There are very few people I've met who can stay unemotional around that. Some of them because they just weren't taught the emotions, which means they just don't have any.
Yeah, okay? They're missing that part of the brain. Yeah,
they're missing that part of the brain, or the brain didn't get programmed in the right way. Some of those are sociopathic or psychopathic. That's not a good thing.
We're not going for that. Yeah,
it's not a great thing.
And the monks that you mentioned have probably meditated for 4 hours a day for 20 years to get there. So
they're no good at a party.
Yeah,
they're no fun to be with. Okay, so they're interesting to watch and try and surprise, but they're not people that we'd ever buy from.
Right.
Okay. To understand, we buy from human beings. We buy because we have feelings. We buy feelings before we ever buy a thing. Okay. So just remain human. No, you'll never crack this completely, but you could get better at how bad you are. At it, you could get
accepting yourself
less worse. Yeah. Get less worse. And even if you would get a tiny bit less worse, I guarantee you would see some amazing things happen within the sales results that you get.
Yeah. So can you give us some examples of clients who've gotten less worse and really benefited from it?
I can. So this came to me through somebody who bought the book. Oh, no, they got the book for themselves, and their sister, who just started a sales job, was looking through the book and kind of went, oh, this looks interesting. I think I need this. And can I borrow this? Okay. So she borrows the book, and it's a really quick book to read, by the way. You could read it probably all in one go at one sitting, or you can take little bits from it. Anyway, the next day she starts texting her sister, who's lent her the book, literally saying, oh my God, I have just hit 10 grand in sales, 10,000 in sales in just an hour. It normally takes me a week to do that. And then she texts again and she says, I'm up to 17,000 and it's just lunchtime. And then she keeps on doing this day after day after day. And she's getting hauled into the head offices of the companies, and they're going, what's going on here? What's going on? She's saying, well, I'm just using a few of the things from here to get a better relationship with the customer. And it's just working a treat. And from what I hear, she's still on a roll.
Excellent.
I hear example after example, story after story of this stuff working at an exponential level for people. So no matter how good you are at sales, and anybody, watching this, essentially they're good at sales and they're wanting to get even better. Mm-hmm. I would say give this work a look, because it's a quick read, okay? And I think it can have a really big effect on just giving you that extra edge, which most days we don't need that edge, but there are days when we're trying to combat either ourselves or that person in front of us. And I believe, and I've seen and I've heard that this can really give you the edge in that situation.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I tease over the just be less worse. But when you think about it, we're overcoming 500 million years of programming of our brainstem. So
right.
That's not going to be just fixed overnight. But you can be less worse than the person that you're calling on and handle the situation 100 times better. So less worse goes a long way.
Right. And think about how bad your competitors are going to be anyway.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
We're in a world of competition all the time. You need that extra edge if you can take it.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Well, thank you as always, Mark, for sharing your wisdom with us and really helping us tame that age-old brain that gets riled up and makes us react in ways that we don't feel so proud about sometimes.
It's a great pleasure. I love having a chat with you. And thank you all for listening into this and watching this and hearing what I've got to say about it.
Greatly appreciated. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in and investing in your own success. The Sales Mastery Summit is here to help you never stop learning from the best. Take care.